The debate topic today is, does the Islamic God exist? And we have two competitors, Grayson, Hawk, and Manar. Manar is going to be taking the affirmative, and Grayson's going to be taking the negative there. The format's going to be pretty simple. So there's going to be an affirmative introduction, which will be 5 minutes. So Manar will have 5 minutes to do his introduction. And then there's going to be a negative introduction, which will be Grayson, same time frame. And then we'll do the 30-minute cross-examinations. That'll be the affirmative first, followed by the negative. Manar, when you are ready, go ahead and do whatever you're planning on doing over there, and I'll get started. You wanted to start off with a flex, you said, right?
Yes, sure. I promised Taco he wanted me to do a roundhouse kick. We were able to bring it down. So everybody, welcome. I do want to show Grayson Hawk who he's debating. Let me just do a turn around.
Okay.
I don't want to get off my zipper broken. Anyways,
okay, thank
Grayson,
you guys.
that's
all right,
fine, man. You need to start working on this very quickly. Maybe you're very smart. You're working on your head too much. Start working on your biceps a little bit more. But anyways,
all right, timer
now
starting
that you know
now.
a little bit more about me, Syrian blood, 15-inch arms. But anyways, we're gonna actually get into the debate. Thank you so much, Taco. Thank you everybody for welcome to the show. I thought about making a song for Grayson, but I didn't even want to put that much effort into it. I don't even think he deserves it. I think he's going to actually detriment this whole debate, make a ruin, make a fallacious joke. If that's even a real thing to say, but he's gonna make basically an argument filled with no evidences, his random presumptions, his random appealing to. We're gonna ask him, "What are you appealing to?" He's gonna forget to tell us. No worries, Grayson. You're gonna remember, and you're gonna prove to me that I was right. That was my prediction. That's what I would like to start that debate with. Let's play the song later after we actually get the funeral done with. But for now, I'm going to actually prove to you, everybody, that the Islamic God does exist. Now, when they made that claim for me, I did ask myself a question. I said, Manar, how are you going to prove to these laymen, these people that haven't been enlightened yet, somebody like Grayson and his co-workers here, a lot of the other people that know me, they've already been enlightened, they've figured it out. But here, I'm going to enlighten a little bit more, guys. We're going to bring you guys to the light of the Islamic tradition. In Islam, guys, we're going in this debate, we're going to present to you what the Islamic tradition believes Islam is at the final stage. But first, I'm going to give you guys a consensus in the scientific community that the universe was created. It had to have a beginning. Other than that, Grayson is going to explode his mind trying to actually prove that there's no beginning, but the universe ever expanding ever by itself. It's just there's no beginning for it, but it just expands by itself. No worries, Grayson. You're gonna have to actually contend with the scientific fact that the universe actually has a beginning. And here's the actual argument. Write it down, guys. U, therefore B, the universe. If the universe exists, therefore it had a beginning. Next, B, therefore C. If the universe has a beginning, therefore it has a creator. And then finally, just for me, so I can win this debate, if the Quranic and the scientific community agree, then the Quranic and scientific community, Q and C and S, therefore C, they also have to agree that that creator is the same creator. That's how I'm going to win this debate. We're going to see what fallacious argumentation he's going to bring up to try to win. But anyway, so first scientific evidence, and I thought about bringing logical evidences. Who cares about logic? Half of you guys, man, think you can cut off your child's penis. I thought about moral arguments. Man, look at you guys. Your girlfriend, your daughters have boyfriends. Half of you guys in the room. So we're not going to make moral argument. We're not going to make a logical argument. We're going to make scientific arguments. Bring it down, dumb it down to y'all, so nobody can actually argue against me. So here's the first argument, the BVG argument. The understand board, it's called a Borde-Vilenkin-Guth proof. We must understand that the Hubble limiter law, the HL law, this law states that galaxies are moving away from Earth, which is our observation point, at speeds proportional to their distance. So as far they are, that's how fast they're going. The further away they are from us, though, the faster we observe them moving. So, by the way, and you'll understand, I'll explain a little bit more, but basically, the further they go, the faster they actually get. The Hubble limiter law describes the speed at which objects move in an expanding universe. The standard scientific explanation for this is that science is expanding. Consequentially, the more space there is between us and another galaxy, the more expansion there will be. Hence, from our perspective, the galaxy's velocities grow greater over time. Imagine that you can, for example, here's an example, guys. Imagine that you can hop in a spaceship and head towards one of these other galaxies at 100,000 miles per hour. But because the galaxy is moving away from you while you're heading to it, your velocity, its velocity, how it's moving away from you might be 20,000. That means your actual velocity is at 80,000. And basically, that's how you understand the relative velocity theory of the expansion of the universe. Bearing that point in mind, we come to the beginning of the BVG proof. Since galaxies are actually moving away from us faster and faster over time, the relative velocities of objects moving toward them would slow down over time. So because they're actually getting faster, when they get to each other, they get actually slower. At some finite point in the past, relative velocities would have reached the speed of light. Scientists generally agree that the speed of light is the maximum possible speed. Thus, this point would have to mark the beginning of time in the universe as we know it. Even if it turns out that there's a velocity greater than the speed of light, that will not undermine the theory. It only is necessary that there's a maximum velocity. Suppose, for example, that a higher velocity than the speed of light was discovered in our universe. The Bohr-Villikin proof would not be under. What do you mean time? I haven't even started.
That's 5 minutes. Go ahead and finish your statement, and then we'll go ahead and move on to Grayson. So go ahead and finish your statement there, and then we'll move on to Grayson.
The BVG proof shows the expansion of the universe is everlasting. How can the universe expand it? If it already existed, it would have already finished expanding, or if that means it has a beginning. That's why it's expanding. The next entropy, there was a low entropy in the universe. Now it's reaching its final entropy, which is actually going to create chaos in the universe. It's dissipating all the energy. There was a point that there was a lot of energy in the universe. Now the whole energy is dissipating as fast as the universe is expanding. That's the entropy theory. And then finally, guys, the fine-tuning theory, which is that there needs to be extreme fine-tuning for this universe to even exist. How is it going to go? What observable planets in the exoplanets? 5,500 observable exoplanets. We haven't seen a single proof of life. And then finally, guys, just to bring it to my God, why do I believe the Islamic God exists? Is that he himself makes that claim. He says, have those who rejected the word of God not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we, God, separated them and made them made from water every living thing? They will not believe.
Manar, we're about 45 seconds over now.
That he actually does not contradict the scientific community. The God's creation does not in the Islamic community does not contradict the scientific community.
Manar,
as well. One more thing.
You already had two finals. I got to stop you there. Okay. So you can go over some of that in the cross-examination and the closing too if you need. But Grayson, it's your turn for the cross-exam, or not cross-exam, for the introduction now. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer when you're ready. Let me know whenever you're ready, and I'll get this started.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I'm ready. I just, how do you even follow up that, right? I mean, I have had a lot of these discussions about the existence of God before with primarily fundamentalist Christians. This is my first time debating a Muslim opponent. I hope that they're not all like this. I can tell that we're in for a very interesting conversation. Like, my opponent's not even listening to me anymore. He's talking to his stream. He seems kind of like a cartoon character. I was hoping that we could have, like, a normal conversation between two adults. It does not seem like this conversation is going to go that way at all. So I'll just broadly lay out, yes, I'm an atheist. The reason why I've been an atheist all my life is that no one's ever provided any sufficiently good reason or evidence that I should believe in their God. Generally, I ask the Christians, why should I believe in their God? They never give me good answers. That was my plan to ask the Muslims, because Muslims have never tried to explain to me why I should believe in Allah before, so thought I would give Manar this opportunity to potentially convert me. I'm open to changing my mind if I hear any good arguments or good, sound, sufficient evidence tonight. So far, I did not hear any. I heard the Kalam cosmological argument, which is super easily debunked. I debunked this to William Lane Craig, the popularizer of this, in my video about him. Basically, the issues are that no one's ever seen anything come into existence ex nihilo, like they're saying the universe did. You can't just generalize the creation of a chair or any old random objects, which in actuality is just a rearrangement of pre-existing parts. You cannot then extrapolate that to the entire universe creation ex nihilo when we have literally no examples of anything beginning to exist ex nihilo before. So this is a category error for one. For two, nobody knows whether the universe began to exist. This is the current consensus theory understanding in cosmology. I've taken graduate level cosmology courses where I learned this very explicitly. Manar has pretty much no experience with any of this material. He's not educated in this. I don't know where he's getting his information from to say that the consensus of science is that the universe had a beginning. The Big Bang Theory does not say where the energy for the universe began. We don't even have a theory of quantum gravity, so we literally cannot say anything about the very earliest moments of the universe. It is literally impossible to say that with our current understanding of physics. Manar just is not understanding the science. He's twisted himself up in knots with the Dunning-Kruger effect, thinking that he knows more than he does. It's very common amongst apologists. The BGV theorem, actually, Vilenkin, one of the three people that came up with the theorem, has explicitly said in interviews when asked directly, no, the BGV theorem does not say that the universe had a beginning. It says that the universe's expansion had a beginning, which cannot be conflated. Manar is trying to say that the universe and the universe's expansion are the same thing. They are not. The BGV theorem does not get you to the universe having a beginning. I do not grant that the universe is fine-tuned. There's too many assumptions inherent in that are not justifiable. We can get into fine-tuning, but I reject this as a premise. And in terms of God separating the heaven from the earth, this is not at all what happened in the Big Bang. The earth did not exist. To separate the heavens and the earth from, this is not at all describing the Big Bang. In fact, what it's describing is an event in the Enuma Elish, where the Sumerian gods separate the heavens and the earth, and this predates Islam. So no, nothing that Manar put forward is any evidence. I mean, just because even if we knew that the universe had a beginning, which we don't, that still doesn't get you to a supernatural creator God. If you want if you want me to present an argument about why Allah does not exist, other than the fact that we have absolutely no reason or evidence to think that he does, if I could point to the problem of evil or the problem of imperfection, that's one I like right now, is just that, hey, if you have this perfect being who's all good, all powerful, all knowing, he could not create an imperfect universe like ours. Then he would not be perfect. So it is a contradictory idea to think that your God is all perfect and created this universe because, hey, a perfect being cannot create something imperfect. Otherwise, he's not as perfect as a being that can only make perfect things. So if he's maximally perfect, like Allah is and all these Christian and Muslim and Jewish gods are supposed to be, then he cannot be the creator of this imperfect universe. Thank you.
Are you ceding the rest of your time?
That's what thank you means, is that
Perfect.
I'm done
Just checking. Perfect. So we'll go ahead and move into the cross-examination. Manar is the affirmative here, so Manar will go ahead and take over. You've got 30 minutes. Let me know when you're ready, and we'll go ahead and start the 30-minute timer.
Well, sure. I mean, thank you. Finally, I get some time to freaking talk about this. Okay, so just to bring up my whole argument, guys, in the introduction, basically, the scientific community has consensus that the universe had to have a creation. What else does Grayson believe that was the... what else is the consensus of the scientific community then? Is the universe ever existing?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to explain. The current consensus is that we don't have enough data to say one way or another if the universe had a beginning or not. We just don't know. That's the current consensus.
But because you willfully refuse to accept one of the arguments doesn't mean that there are actually plain and put simple arguments, and that's why I actually brought you some evidences. You refuse to accept them doesn't mean that there's no consensus, my brother, because there is consensus actually. That's the reason that these arguments are coming up. Anything?
Yes, I would like for you to provide a source for this claim that you are speaking with.
For example?
No, yeah, I would like to provide a source that you're speaking with the scientific consensus, because I can provide you a direct quote from Vilenkin saying that his theory does not say what you're claiming.
What a load of BS. His theory actually claims that the universe is ever expanding. That's all it needs to prove. And then, by the way, I wasn't able to complete, actually, to finish up my actual conclusion for why I brought up the theory in the first place. Here's my conclusion, actually. Moreover, there must be a maximum possible velocity in any universe or multiverse to understand why you should imagine the physical energy could have an infinite velocity. If its velocity were infinite, it would be everywhere at once. That this would create a problem of the multiple manifestation of energy and series of intrinsic contradictions. Thus, there must be a beginning of every universe or multi-universe with an average rate of expansion greater than 0, such as our universe, which has been expanding ever since the Big Bang. That's actually the conclusion of that theory. Yes.
If I may respond to that. This is the part of the debate where I will link a video of Valinkin directly saying that his theory does not show any such thing and that he has actually changed his thinking from the quote that Manar provided. I can provide a 2021 interview with him, the most up-to-date on this, where he says explicitly that the BGV theorem does not say that the universe had to have a beginning. That's the current consensus from the guy that came up with it himself directly from the horse's mouth. And I will put that clip right here in the video.
The theorem proves that inflation must have a beginning. Right? The universe as a whole, the theorem doesn't say that. It says that the expansion of the universe must have a beginning.
Okay, so at least he's trying, guys. He's got one. Okay, what about the second law of thermodynamics? What about heat entropy? There was low heat entropy. Now the universe is expanding. The energy is dissipating even at a higher rate. And at some point, it's going to be done, which shows that there was a moment of actual extreme energy.
Yes, so this relies on the false and unjustifiable assumption that you would always have to have some sort of linear time and that you could never have any period of non-metric time, which of course is physically allowable. You can listen to any physicist like Sean Carroll explaining this. And non-metric time would get rid of this whole notion that entropy must always be increasing over time, because if time is non-metric, then you don't have to have this infinite increase in entropy, which, by the way, also my opponent would have to disprove the concept of non-metric time being possible to exist.
That's true, guys. I forgot. These guys, they don't need to observe anything. They can't. You don't need to replicate actual scientific examples in labs for them to actually believe it. That they believe in evolution. They believe in anything that you can make up. It doesn't have to be an observable reality. It can be somewhere outside, and he actually makes it up. For example, he's never observed a nonlinear time space, but he actually can make this up and muddy the waters, guys.
Well, so there's a very good reason why we have to be theoretical about this, because we're talking about energy densities that cannot be reproduced in a lab. You're trying to make the claim that the universe had a beginning. You have to be the one to reproduce that if you're going to make the claim, right? You cannot reproduce anything that's more dense than quantum plasma, which you need to if you're going to try to make the claim about the beginnings. I'm the one.
Then again, guys.
We do not know about the very, very earliest moments of the universe because we cannot replicate it and because we have to rely on theory to teach us about it because, hey, it's too energy dense for us to recreate ourselves.
Exactly. Your actual contention to me is I'm wrong. And then when I ask you, what about you? You say, I don't know.
Yes, correct. Because
what's your theory? I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know what my theory is. I don't know what I believe in. There is no consensus that was scientific. This is a blank in my head.
Manar,
try to run away.
Because, Manar, admitting when you don't know something is the honest position to have. I'm the one who's being intellectually honest, admitting when we don't know something. You're the one who's claiming we know something that we don't. That is dishonest.
No. What's happening is for you to actually admit you don't know, you have to actually refuse the evidence in front of your brain. You have to actually say no to the evidences. And a lot of people actually believe it. So for some reason, Grayson doesn't actually believe in this evidence. I don't know why. He was born this way, I guess, guys, and he's not going to change it.
Well, Manar,
everyone's been given these proofs, and for some reason you just refuse to accept it. I really want to know, what do you believe happened to the universe? What is your theory? Go ahead.
I don't have one because I'm honest and I follow where the evidence leads. And if we don't have evidence to say one way or another, then we cannot make claims.
I told you guys it's gonna run away.
Hey, Manar.
You have no alternate theory. You have no. I'm asking him, what is his alternate theory, Taco? He doesn't have an alternate theory.
So Manar, when he's responding to your question, you're in charge of the time, but let's try to be polite and not yell over him. Thank you.
My opponent has an issue with me admitting when I don't know something. I'm just being honest right now. I don't think that that's an issue to be honest when you don't know something. And the reason why that scientists do not know whether the universe had a beginning or not is because of a lack of evidence establishing that as a fact. We don't have evidence to establish that the universe definitely had a beginning. It's just we don't have any evidence that would cause us to conclude that.
Yeah, but for example, there was very little evidence, according to what you're saying, for example, for Darwinians to believe that neo-Darwinism still actually became the scientific consensus for the
What are you
longest time.
talking about, man? No, there's tons of evidence.
There was no evidence for lobotomies to be actually treating of antidepressant. Instead, they're actually used for treating antidepressant for the longest time. So I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you appealing to this no evidence? There was no evidence for C-19 vaccines, so I don't know why you're appealing to this.
This is
no
a
evidence.
non sequitur. One, those things other than lobotomies.
When there's a consensus, you're saying there's no evidence, but there's a consensus.
All those things, other than lobotomies, which I disagree with, and I don't think that there was evidence for, other than that, all those things that you listed literally did have evidence supporting them. So it's not analogous. Like, there are scientific evidence supporting the efficacy of all those
evidence, guys.
Hey, Manar, Manar, I have to lower it because of both YouTube and Discord terms of service. Let's avoid the misinformation on that topic.
But the lobotomy is actually a good example because
I don't know, man. I'm not. This is not sufficient for me. I'm not going to allow him to say I don't know. This is not okay. This is the only. Actually, this is the only question I wrote down. I wanted you to answer. I said if I am wrong, this is literally what I wrote down. I said this is the only question, guys, I've ever wanted the whole. Literally, I came to this debate. I only want one question answered. I said if I am wrong and you are right, so that means you prove that I am wrong. What then? Should everyone in this chat believe? Convince them. Go ahead, win. Go ahead, take it over. So, what should they believe? Go ahead. Okay. I really want to know. Like, I just only question I wrote down.
You're literally throwing a tantrum right now because I'm not following your script.
Believe I don't know, guys. You should believe
I don't know. It's a perfectly valid position. It's fine to admit when you don't know something.
It's a valid position. No, it's not. It's not. It's a valid position. Not sound. Not sound at all. Not sound.
So let me explain. I can do Manar's job for him, and I can provide what I think is the best evidence that the universe actually did have a beginning, which he doesn't even know about because he's not educated in cosmology. But if you actually look at the temperature power spectrum of the cosmic microwave background and you look at how it has to align, it has to be bound in time. So it does require a t=0 moment in order to construct the predictions that precisely match reality. That would be the best argument that Manar could put forward about like establishing a t=0 moment, but he doesn't even know it because he thinks he knows everything about science. He thinks he's going to tell me about stuff that, like, I have literally taken graduate level courses in cosmology. I know this material. If Manar would let me explain, I could very well explain to you why it is that the current evidence we have is not sufficient to conclude that the universe had to have a beginning. If he would like me to, but I don't think he actually wants me to explain any of that.
I mean, okay, so all of that knowledge in you, with all of the evidence that you concluded, you still couldn't come up with an actual theory that's feasible that somebody can believe in this audience?
Because nobody has a consensus theory of quantum gravity. Without a theory of quantum gravity, you cannot describe the very earliest moments of our universe, and thus you cannot say if space and time itself had an origin or if the universe had an originating beginning. You cannot say that until you have a theory of quantum gravity, which nobody has yet.
I think my opponent is running away, guys. It's like me coming into debate and saying, hey, guys, I'm here to prove that cutting your hand is
Manar, this is your cross-exam time. You should be asking questions. You could say something like that in the conclusion, but let's not like attack each other during the cross-exam.
Because I've been asking questions for 15 minutes. He didn't answer a single one. He said, I don't know to everyone. Look,
you only
like me coming to the debate, guys, and saying, I will prove that cutting your arm is wrong. And then I give you evidences. And then my opponent says, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's okay because cutting your arm, it hurts. And then I say, what? What do you mean it hurts? That's it? That's all you have? He's like, yeah, that's all I want to say. I don't have anything else. I think cutting your arm hurts. I was like, okay, what if it doesn't hurt? What if it doesn't hurt? What if I give you a drug that doesn't make cutting your arm actually doesn't hurt? Well, I don't know. I don't know then. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know anything. I mean, what a ridiculous guy.
Why don't we get back to the actual
answer?
Okay, we're not even arguing about the topic of the debate right now. I am making the point that
Because
I do not. Wait,
I asked you one
Manar,
question. I said, what else is the theory
Manar,
that we should accept if it's the universe? My thinking was, I actually believe that everyone in this room agreed that the universe had the creation moment.
you're
You
wrong.
are the first person to tell me the Big Bang actually did not exist,
I
and that
didn't
the
say
universe had already ever been created. Or you're telling me, no, I don't know this.
Okay, I said none
You're
of that.
the only
None of
person
those
I've ever
things.
met that denies the Big Bang.
I don't deny the Big Bang. You just don't understand what the Big Bang is.
Creation.
No, it's not. The Big Bang is
what is
merely a description of the expansion of the universe from a smaller, hotter, denser state. There's nothing in that about the beginning of the universe. You are misunderstanding the Big Bang theory and weaponizing
No, but that's literally the
you.
description that God creates in his own actual. When he says, I created the universe, he claims that he created the use of the Big Bang. Let me give you the actual verse here. It says here, have those who rejected the word of God not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity? So you're talking about the condensation of time and space continuum, and God separated separated them and made the water from water every living thing. And so basically, he actually claims that was the actual moment of creation. So what is your claim that wasn't?
I would say that there's a superior claim in the Enuma Elish that predates the Quran that says the exact same thing thousands of years before. So if you're trying to use that as evidence,
why is Big Bang not the actual moment of creation? Why is that not the moment of creation?
I'll explain it. Fine. Look, the Big Bang is the expansion of the universe from an already existing state to a larger state. That's what the Big Bang actually is. If you disagree with that, listen, I once thought like you. I thought Manar, I thought that the Big Bang was the beginning of the universe. Then I took a class in cosmology and I asked the professor and I read the textbook and I found out what it actually is when you take the time to learn the science rather than just repeat wherever you've been reading this from. I don't know where it is, but it's obviously not a science text.
So what is it? What is the Big Bang? I asked you again. You keep saying it's not.
I told you twice. Look, I would say it very, very slowly.
No, you said you went and reread about it, and then you refused. It's not the actual expansion of the
Manar,
it's not the actual moment of creation.
Manar, I have defined it for you twice. I will repeat it one more time for you.
He said he went back. He refused the professor. And then said he did his own research.
Okay, Manar, you asked a question. Please allow Grayson to respond to your question again.
Why is he lying? He's not going to lie and say that he actually
defined the definition, Mo. You won't let me finish my sentence. The Big Bang is the expansion of space-time from a previous, hotter, smaller, denser state, period. That's all the Big Bang is.
So why did you say it's not the moment of creation then?
Because nothing I just said in that definition implies a moment of creation, does it?
Yeah, but it doesn't not imply it either.
No, it actually does not imply it, Manar. I will repeat it for you because you have difficulty understanding this. When I say that it's an expansion from a previously existing state, that very directly implies that we are not talking about a creation event. I know you don't want to let me finish even one sentence, but we are not talking about
this is unbelievable. So you're talking about the universe was in a different state, is what you're saying. What state was that? Let's go ahead and hear.
A smaller, hotter, denser one. That is according to the Big Bang theory. And by the way,
it wasn't in any way, form, shape, or form in this state at all. It was exactly for a minute. It was exactly what the God said. Have those who rejected the word of God not considered that the heavens and the earth in your state that you're describing were actually joint entity. They were in this singular state that you're talking about, in a random state that they hadn't been created yet, and we separated them. We actually create the split. So what are you talking about? Yeah, this doesn't contradict that he actually was the putter of the heavens and the earth. He makes that claim.
Yeah, so
he's the one that made
my point them first. Was that almost every single religion makes that same claim. From ancient Mesopotamians to the Egyptians to the Hindus, almost every religion makes the claim that their God separated the earth and it was all conjoined. The Gnostics make the same claim before the Quran ever existed. Come
Just to
on.
remind you, that
Not
doesn't disprove
differentiated
that the Islamic God does exist. Just because other religions agree with it doesn't disprove the Islamic God does exist.
No, I think
finish.
actually it's a good example.
Let me clarify. So right now, Manar, as I mentioned at the start, you're doing the cross-examination.
Just because the actual some other religion believes that the same
Manar.
another God exists does not mean that Islamic God does not exist. Okay, that could be that those are the same God and they actually believe in the same monotheism. They just give it a different clarification and name. So you actually are not disproving that Islamic God does exist.
Yeah, okay. My point in stating that was not to say, therefore, the Islamic God does not exist. I don't know why you thought that that was the point I was making. If you let me finish my point, the point I was making was that this cannot be differentiated lines of evidence for Islam because almost every other religion has the same evidence or claim. In that, they all claim that the universe used to be in a
Islamic God.
and now it's differentiated. The
They
Gnostic.
can claim what they want.
Okay, yeah, but I'm just saying,
By the
you're
way,
trying to offer evidence
in your
for Islam.
cross-examination, by the way, this is my cross-examination. Hey, when is it done, Taco? How much time do I have?
You have about 13 minutes left, and please, when you're engaging with Grayson, please let him finish his point before you start yelling at us.
He can cross-examine me and talk to me about the other gods and tell me why he thinks it's not right. It's okay, man. By the way, that doesn't disprove. Hey, think through it while the 30 minutes. This doesn't disprove the Islamic God. It could be that the Christian gods believe that the Christian God is the true God, and it still could prove that the Islamic God is still the true God. All it has to be is that they're the same God. That's it. So go away. Anyways,
so you should be building the case right now for your position, Manar.
We got to the point of the claim where Grayson cannot actually disagree anymore. He actually believes that the Big Bang, agrees with me, the Big Bang is a moment of expansion. There is an extreme amount of expansion. The universe is not the same universe that it was. It was another state completely. There was no gases. There was no heat. It was a condensed state. And and the Big Bang had to exist because there had to be an extreme condensation to create the extreme heat, to create the extreme expansion that's everlasting till today. So here's the actual point that Grayson got to: it is a moment of expansion, but maybe it's not the creation. I don't know why. I asked him 300 times. He doesn't want. He says he defined it twice. You guys are the judges. If you're happy with his definition, he said he went to his professor and talked to him. Anyway, so we actually got to a moment of agreement. He agrees there's an expansion. He just doesn't believe it's the moment of creation. I can't get him to explain why. Can you, one last time, are you going to explain why? Why is it not the moment of creation?
Sure. Do you understand the difference between a thing beginning to expand and a thing beginning to exist? If you think that those are two different things, then you should already acknowledge that we're talking about two things here. You're
presuming I'm not agreeing with you. You're presuming that when I say creation, I'm not talking about that condensed moment of space and time continuum that you're describing. That's what you're assuming. You're assuming that when I say you have to describe, why is that not actually, when you say that moment was the actual condensed space and the expansion is the thing that is expanding space, that means to me, we're talking about the same thing. You're just saying it's not.
No, because prior to expansion, all of our theories don't tell us anything. We don't know if the energy existed before expansion. We don't know if it was created at expansion. We don't know where that energy came from. We don't know if the universe existed before that. We don't know if there was before that.
I wrote it down. We don't know anything about energy before expansion. Now, that moment of expansion, how can you say that was not the moment of creation of the universe? If you agree with me, the universe was not in the state that it was yet.
Yeah.
It was in this condensed state.
Yeah.
And then this expansion happened and it created the universe. How can you make the claim that this expansion was not the actual moment of creation that I'm talking about?
Yeah, because I differentiate between, like, if the energy already existed and then started expanding, I wouldn't say that energy came into existence when it started expanding. I think that is a nonsensical position. But I just want to make the point really quick. You're supposed to be interrogating me about God existing, not about the universe beginning to exist.
Hey, by the way, I'm winning the debate right here. That's why he has to push, guys. This is why he has to push. I'm winning the debate. He's actually in an agreement with me. Big Bang is the actual expansion of the universe. There is no actual way for him to prove that what I'm saying when I say the God created the expansion, the removal, the actual dissipation between the heavens and the earth. He himself split them asunder. According to Al-Anbiya 21:30, It says one last time, let me repeat the guy. Have those who rejected the word of God, he's talking to you, Grayson, not considered that the heavens and the earth, you're so intelligent. Have you not considered that the heavens and the earth that you're claiming was not the moment of creation? You haven't actually gave us a good theory. Why not? You actually just presumed this. We're going to accept it. We didn't actually accept it. And the earth were joined in entity. This is actually the description of the moment. You're actually disagreeing with me. That is actually the Big Bang. This is the full description of that moment. And for some reason, you're telling me, no, this is not the actual moment of creation. I'm like, okay, there was a condensed time that God is talking about, the entity of heavens and earth together. Then there was a splitting asunder, and then there's an expansion. So I'm not understanding, how can you actually disprove that this actual verse is disagreeing with anything we're talking about?
Because the Big Bang is not the separation of heaven and the earth. The earth did not come into existence at the Big Bang. It was like 10 billion years after that. And then, hold on. Just let me make this one other point. When you blow up a balloon, you do not say that the balloon came into existence when you started expanding it. The balloon already existed, just not expanded, and then you started expanding it. You cannot say that's the beginning of the balloon. That's the argument you're making.
You can't say that's the balloon. No. Once it explodes, you can't say, oh, what exploded was the balloon. You have to say this is the compressed air that, or whatever is the entity within the balloon, or shards of the balloon. But you can never say this is the same balloon. So that means this wasn't the universe. This was something else in a condensed matter. You can't claim that this balloon is the same entity that expanded into. This is the entity within the balloon. It's not the actual balloon. So it's shard of the balloon. It's a new. Yeah, it's the air compression within the balloon. It's the shard of space. Maybe the balloon was a shell. You don't know. Maybe it was a hard shell, and within it there was. This is the gas, and we're just an expansion of gas. Yeah, maybe we're just an expansion of gas. Actually, this is not against stardust. That's what stardust is. So why is you can't claim that this balloon is also this balloon that exploded? You can't claim that, my brother. It's not the same balloon. So that means this universe and this universe are not the same.
You are arguing from an analogy so much right now. I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. I was just the reason why.
Bad analogies all the time. You know
just let me explain to you.
You have a trash analogy. Thank you for showing that.
The reason why I brought up the analogy. Okay, dude, can you ever listen to anyone?
Okay, guys, this is why this is very important, because the reason Grayson literally disagreed with me is because he created a definition in his head that I am wrong with. He said that in his head, the Big Bang is not necessarily the expansion, the moment of expansion that he's describing. It is something else that he actually shoved into me.
I didn't say that at all.
My argument does not disagree at all with you. It's
my God. Okay, Manar.
There was a state of the universe, and then we split them. So you cannot actually claim that I'm actually wrong, and that, by the way,
holy shit, man. Oh my God.
He hasn't explained why the Big Bang is wrong.
Can you just talk to me instead of your audience? This is supposed to be a conversation between the two of us, not you and the audience. Just talk to me like a person, okay? You're supposed to be asking me questions. Ask me a question, Manar.
All right. Is there an infinite past?
I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, you're asking me things I couldn't possibly have knowledge about. I mean,
so much sexier and attractive and appealing to my viewer. At least my viewers have something to believe in. All they have from you is I don't know. I don't know.
Look, I'm being honest and
epistemological. When they look at me, they know what they're looking at. They're like, oh, he's God. There's a godly guy. He's talking about God. You're I don't know guy.
Okay, so if you were to actually take the time to go through the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and do the prerequisite reading so that you would be informed on this topic, then you would know that in the current state of metaphysics, there are three camps about the question you just asked. Foundationalism, which you are, infinitism, and coherentism. And currently, those are three vying positions, none of which has any arguments that preference like one over the other. They're three equally valid positions. You asked me if infinitism was possible. I said, sure, I don't know, because I am agnostic about those three positions. You don't even seem to know anything about the other two other than your own.
I mean, you're just making it up. I mean,
bro, I can cite you. I will link you this.
No one here believes you anymore. If I asked you what universe we live in right now, no one knows. No one knows. You're not going to answer. What universe are we living? Is it an ever-expanding universe? Is it just stalemate universe? What is it? What is this universe right now? Are we in an expanding universe? Do you know?
Right now, our universe looks like it's expanding. However, the recent DESI observations indicate that expansion may eventually slow down and reverse. We don't know for sure based on this current data. And I know that you hate that. I know that you hate when people admit to not knowing something because you love certainty about everything. But in real life, you have to be epistemologically humble and admit when you don't know anything, when you don't know something, right?
Also, in real life, you either cut your dick off or you don't. There's no I don't know in between. It doesn't exist there.
Hey,
the moment of
Manar, let's keep it on topic.
I'm just saying there are moments where it's very necessary to make a distinction clearly. You can't just keep saying I don't know forever. There are survival moments, and this is one. You're staking your survival on this moment. You have to give us a description. You can't look that bad. You can't say that there is no infinite time, or I don't know if their time is infinite. You can't claim that there is no beginning, and also do not make the claim that there is the universe is just ever existing. So you're basically running like you can't say, oh, when you disagree with me, when you disagree and say, oh no, the universe is not actually was not created, then that means the universe is ever existing. There's only two choices. There cannot be a third one. What other choice is it?
Look, Manar, you're twisting my positions. When I say I don't know, you're then saying Grayson said that the universe didn't begin to exist. That is not what I don't know means.
The question then, Grayson, is it possible in the end, after all this, you might actually agree with me because you just don't know anything? In the end, when you actually look into this, you actually, in the end, you'll agree with me and Islam. Just like all of science, by the way, all of science throughout all of history always contended against Islam. Islam never changed. Science is the ever changing. Whoever wants to trust science has to trust this Grayson. Yuck! You're gonna trust doing business with this guy? You're gonna tell him where's the money? I don't know. I don't know where the money is, man. It's, according to the scientific data, we could look at it here. Man.
He's not asking me
another theory.
He's just insulting me to my face rather than asking questions. Yeah. Here's the difference between me and Manar, right? If I do not have enough evidence to make a valid conclusion, I will admit that I don't have that evidence, and I will not then make a conclusion that I don't have a justified basis to conclude. Manar will make claims without the evidence because he thinks, oh, well, you just need to make a stand. It doesn't matter if we don't have the evidence. You need to just make a stand. I'm not willing to do that because I'm intellectually honest. If I don't have the evidence that would be sufficient enough to make a statement, I will not make the statement. I'm trying to be honest here. I'm trying to be good faith. I thought maybe Manar would try to even change my mind. It doesn't seem like he's at all interested in changing my mind or making me believe in Allah or even presenting evidence for Allah. His entire cross-exam was just trying to grill me for saying I don't know something that I don't know.
2 minutes left.
I'm being honest here, Manar.
Okay, thank you, Grayson. Appreciate you, Grayson. Thank you. I really appreciate you, man. You've given me everything I needed, by the way. In my conclusion, I'm going to link back up why you actually do not disagree with me. Me and you, I don't know why, for some reason, see, this is the problem. When I claimed, do you believe the Big Bang was the moment of creation? You said, no, it's not. Then you made a distinction, like almost like a categorical error between the moment of creation and the expansion. Mm-hmm. And I believe that you created a categorical error when you made that statement. And that's why I'm going to bring that back up in the conclusion to show you that you actually don't disagree with me, that the actual Big Bang theory, the ever expansion of the universe, is the actual theory that we and you agree on. And now that we agree on that and see that the Quran does not contradict that theory, we all can come back to the conclusion that the Islamic God does exist, does not contradict the science. The science agrees with what, for example, do you agree with me? For example, let's say I was right. Play with me, Grayson. Let's say I am a right guy. Let's say my God does exist, blah, blah. Do you believe it's possible for him to create the universe? Is it yes or no? Is it possible for a God?
Yes.
Ever powerful? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, let me ask you one last question. Is it possible for a singularity, non-personable, non-objective in reality, has no intelligence?
20 seconds.
It's just a singularity. It doesn't exist. One more minute. Okay. Singularity exists outside of time and space. It is possible of creation, but it's just a singularity, no objective view, no power really. It's just sitting there. It exists, it's spinning, it's doing its thing, but there's no personality to it. Is it possible for this singularity to create the universe?
I don't believe in the singularities.
All right, that's time. Go ahead and finish your response, Grayson, and then we'll move into your cross.
Example, this singularity, is it possible for it to create this universe?
I don't believe singularities are possible.
I'm trying to prove what I'm trying to prove is there are things that are possible to be the creators of the universe that we can believe and agree. And there are things that we can agree that they are not the creators of the universe, and we can believe and agree on that clearly, instinctively, and intuitively. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
I can end there.
What a stupid way to end. Yeah, I believe that a banana cannot create the universe, but I believe that a god could. Oh, wow. Oh, like it doesn't lead us anywhere to admit that there are some things that could logically create a universe and some things that couldn't. Whoop-de-frickin-do. The results of 30 minutes of questioning and that's all you got? I mean, you accused me of
we're
not
getting ready to go into yours.
Up.
You can bring this up in your time here in a moment, Grayson.
I assume that we were already in my time.
Oh, I'm going to start it whenever you're ready. But it sounds like
I was
you're ready.
already ready.
Yep,
I thought
I'll go right now. My bad. Cool.
Okay.
You're up.
Well, earlier you had claimed that I had not looked into any of this, but like I was, and that you said that I made up my sources when anyone can go to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, look up the page for fundamentality. Anyone can go to their local university and talk to a cosmologist about this subject. I'm curious, Manar, what reading have you done? Where are your sources for the information that you presented with us tonight, where you spoke with the authority representing the scientific consensus? Where did you get that information from?
I mean, this is a topic well debated, well talked about. There's a lot of sources out there. There's so many. There's William Lane Craig with the contingency argument. No, it's you. By the way, you made the claim. I made
All
the
right, well, I'm
cosmological
reclaiming back
argument.
my time now. Thank you very much.
I did not make the Kalam cosmological argument. I made a contingency argument.
You have to.
I made a contingency argument.
Now I'm reclaiming back my time. You gave an answer to William Lane Craig, which is an insufficient. And by the way, Manar, you did tell me that during my time I can do this. You said that earlier. Now you're not letting me talk. So just try to be consistent here. You said that William Lane Craig was a source of information on this, but the thing is that he has debated against physics, like against physicists. Physicists telling him to his face multiple times that what you are saying is not true, it's not the scientific consensus. So I'm glad that we could expose you of saying, well, hi, this guy hasn't read any books in cosmology, he's not reading any physicists, he's reading a Christian apologist and then getting his information about cosmology from that guy. So, okay, my second question to you, Manar, is that if William Lane Craig's Kalam cosmological
argument, that was the source for my contingency argument, but hey, I didn't make that same Kalam cosmological argument. I made a different argument. I said the universe has a creation, and therefore it has a beginning. The universe has a beginning, therefore it has a. If the universe was created, therefore it has a beginning. If the has a beginning, therefore it has a creation. And then I said the Quran and the science have to agree that
I did not ask you that.
This is Grayson's time. He's clarifying. When he's clarifying, please allow him to take his time back.
It's just different. I'm just letting him know that's where I brought the argument.
Those are the rules that, and I let you have. So just be quiet for 2 seconds, okay? And let me ask this question to you: if it really is the case that what I'm saying, as someone that actually has done the prerequisite reading and education on this subject, if what I'm saying is accurate and there isn't a current consensus about whether the universe had a definitive beginning or not, then what is your best evidence or argument or reason why I should believe in Allah?
No, it's impossible. Why would I actually answer that? Because it just doesn't make sense to me. Because I'll give you an answer. If the consensus of the people is that the universe is not ever expanding, that the universe is already existing, that means all the laws of nature would not exist. I mean, I wouldn't exist here today. I mean, how can you have the law of gravity, and how can you have the law of expansion of the universe, and how can you have all of this science, and then you make the claim, oh no, this is all bullshit. Who are you for us to believe? We're not going to believe you.
Manar, please try to pay attention to the question that I am asking you, okay? Because I did not ask you about if the universe wasn't expanding. I didn't ask you about anything. I'm going to ask you again very, very clearly. If the scientific consensus is that we don't currently have enough data to say either way, if the universe began or didn't begin, they're just not saying either claim. They just say that we don't have enough data to say one way or the other. If that is the current consensus, then I am asking you, what is your best argument for why I should believe in Allah?
I would make a moral argument. Absolutely. That would be my second best argument. I would devote myself from scientific necessity, and I would bring to the moral argument. Do you want to hear that argument?
Sure, because again, I reject the overall science of the argument that you presented before. I think that you're inaccurate about the science, so I am open to any other argument that I might be, have less objections with.
That's great, Grayson. I don't think you've heard this argument before. I think this is going to be amazing. It's a totally moral argument. It's going to be logical as well. So it's going to be an implication argument. If P, then Q. If Q, then R. There's the conclusion. Okay.
Okay.
So humans, it starts H. Therefore, subjective entity. Humans are subjective entity. Okay.
Okay.
You agree?
Yes.
Premise 1. Premise 2. Subjective entity is amoral. So if you're S, then you're amoral. Amoral as a standard space word for saying I don't know if I'm being moral or not. Not that I don't know morality, because that is amoral right now. But what I'm trying to state is I don't know if I'm being moral. Like for example, Canada and America have totally two different legal systems. So basically, one of them disagrees with one another. You know what I mean? And they're secular. You see what I mean? Subjective entities amoral.
Yeah, I reject this premise. I reject this premise because I do think that people can be reasonably certain if they are acting in accordance with their moral preferences. I think that moral preferences, if you understand my position, I'm a moral anti-realist. I'm an emotivist. I think that morals are simply expressions of people's subjective preferences. So yeah, obviously I think that people are subjective, and I think that morals are subjective too. And so yeah, people are just expressing their moral preferences.
So the only way you can agree that morality is subjective and that humans are also subjective, and then also agree that subjective entity can be moral even though you knew that they are actually subjective, is that you actually can't make that claim. Do you understand me? Do you see that?
No,
Grayson.
I mean, if morals are subjective, then there's no issue, which they are. So
you cannot say morals are subjective and then this subjective entity, which I'm telling you is amoral, can become moral. How can you actually? That means the only way for that subjective entity to be moral is if it makes up its own morality subjectively. Yeah. Do you agree with that's the only way?
We all have our own made-up subjective moral preferences that we get from our culture, from our upbringing.
Well, subjective entity is amoral. Like, how can it actually look? For me, from my perspective, you agree with me? It looks amoral. Then, you look moral. To me, it looks
originally, amoral. I mean, from your subjective perspective.
Yeah, from my subjective.
Yeah.
So is it possible that all subjective entities can look at each other and look at each other like they're all, because everything is subjective in morality? That means all of them can disagree on each other's moral compasses, right?
Yep, true.
That means it's possible. The reason I say amoral and not immoral is it's possible. You're right. There could be some morality. The problem is they don't know if they're being moral or not because another secular society disagrees with them. Listen, here we'll come to the conclusion.
Okay, good.
Hear this conclusion. So humans are. So now that we hear, it's an implication. So P, Q, Q, R. If P, then R. So if humans, then you are immoral. You're forced. That's forced upon you with your limitation. Till the rest of existence, you're immoral. That's a moral dilemma. You need to answer. It's a valid and sound one. And I have a solution for you. I introduced, because subjective entity is impossible for it to guide you to morality. If you use other subjective entity, if you use other subjective entity like the singularity to come and guide you, then it turns out it's actually also being immoral. Okay. Therefore, the only thing that can guide you into morality is an objective entity.
There's a couple things I need to clarify with you, Manar. One, earlier we were talking about singularities. I just need to clarify. Singularities are mathematical constructs. They're not like actual physical objects. They're not it's not like a physical part of the Big Bang Theory is to have an actual singularity that was a thing that was existing physically, and that there's a singularity at the end of a water droplet, right? Just in the equations of hydrodynamics, these are a result of mathematics. That's not a physical thing. So I just needed to clarify that because you are talking
but you're missing the point. The point is not
now I am going back to the point. I just need to Manar, it's my freaking time. I'm addressing your argument. If you just let me, dang, I let you talk for a long time.
That's not the point of the argument.
It's my freaking cross-examination time, dude. Stop talking over me. Jeez. So, in terms of your moral argument, you had a premise that subjective entities are therefore immoral or something. I obviously disagree with that. I think that your whole argument falls apart. I think that yes, humans are subjective. humans are moral if they align with their moral preferences. There you go. So it's not difficult at all.
Yeah,
This is
but I
not
can
an
perceive
argument.
them as immoral, right?
Wait. I'm almost done. This is not an argument for the existence
If
of
they don't
Allah,
align with my preference,
and I would like for you to make it into an argument for the existence of Allah for me, please.
yeah, perfect. So for me, the moral dilemma concludes to me that subjective entity is amoral forever because the subjective entity cannot guide other subjective entity because it's always limited in knowledge. It will never actually reach the level of knowledge necessary. Every time it does, it dies off because that's what humans are. So subjective entity is subjective forever, and therefore it will never be moral. So the only answer to get away from that dilemma is I have to introduce an objective entity, something outside of time and space that has its own personality, its own intuition, its own power that I can and the actual the capable of giving guidance. And this is where the religious people answer the question. So you can't even say that my argument and my answer is like unreasonable.
It is.
Billions of people believe in it.
No, it is. What is your second premise? I know premise 1, humans are subjective. What was premise 2?
Subjective entity is amoral.
Yeah,
It cannot know if it's moral or
that
not.
is not a reasonable premise, and thus I reject it.
We agreed with one another. To you, you believe you're being moral, but to me, you're being immoral. Therefore, subjective entity to each other will look immoral. They don't even know if they're being moral or not.
No, I reject
I mean, you
this.
have to agree at least from that
I
perspective.
reject this entirely, Manar, because I have subjective
I have to
morals.
spin
I have
myself into
my
a
own
pretzel
set
to
of
get you to
morals.
understand.
And whenever I look at other people, I can say, hey, that guy's even more moral than I am. I can be impressed with the morality of others. Not everyone else is immoral according to my subjective morals. This is an utterly absurd and ridiculous claim. This argument doesn't get you any closer to a God in general, much less Allah. So I'm not sure exactly
I need an objective entity. I need Allah to save me from being my immorality. That's all I have to do is follow His guidance. What do you mean doesn't introduce Allah?
Here,
Thank you for allowing me to make the argument. By the way,
I do not believe in the existence of objective morals. Yet I, in my own moral scheme, am a moral person. There you go.
We need to deal with that. I need to get you to agree with me right now.
But it's not your time to ask the questions, Manar. It's my time to ask the questions. I'm sure that you would like to ask questions, but you already wasted all your time to ask the questions. It's my turn now. And what I would like to ask you, Manar, is all the arguments that I've heard so far seem like they are better served as arguments for a deistic God, a creator of the universe that stepped away and is no longer involved in its machinations at all. So I want to know, why do you think Allah is more probable or is true versus a deistic God?
Allah is more lovable or true? Is that what you said? Lovable?
No, not lovable. Probable.
Probable or true than any other God?
Than a deistic God.
A deistic? What do you mean deistic? Like a deity? Like a god of Olympics?
No, I'm talking about deism. Deism is the belief that there was a creator God that started the universe and then is no longer involved in it at all. He stepped away. All he did was to create the universe and then walk away from it.
Okay, so I guess I'll give you my conclusion, and I will. Can I bring evidences from the Quran, or you don't like that?
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like kind of circular logic if you're going to prove that the Quran is true by citing verses from the Quran, but okay.
Yeah, circular. To use the documentation that actually allowed me to get to the moral conclusion as a reference is circular. Sure. It's fine. So you're asking me, is it God? Why is it that Allah? Why is it Allah? Why is it not, let's call it Oedipus, okay? Or Medobus?
No. No, I'm asking very specifically about a deistic God. I don't know if you've just never heard of deism in general, but that's a specific thing.
Never heard of it. Deism. Okay, that's fine. So deism, I guess I will make the argument for my God Allah. The reason he actually is Allah is because there is no contradictions in the guide that he gave us. We believe that there is this God was actually the God of Adam. So there is many repetitions and reparation, like talking about him.
I got a quick question. You just said that there's no contradictions, but then you just talked about Adam and Eve. Isn't that a contradiction with reality because Adam and Eve never existed?
What do you mean it's a contradiction to reality? So there was no first human? There were no like the Androtheoric humans?
Yeah, obviously Adam and Eve is a fairy tale, so is Noah's flood. I mean, if that's in your
No,
if,
but
if that's in the Quran, then it very clearly contradicts reality.
I'm trying to understand. We have lineages. You know what lineages are? You know what
Yes,
a
I
lineage
know what
is?
lineages are.
So our lineage, what does it go all the way back to? Who? To who does it go back all the way?
It goes
Does it go to a
all
human
the
being or
way
does it go to
back.
nobody?
It
Yeah,
goes
to all the
all
way
the
back.
way back to the
Was it a
last
tribe of
universal.
people? What was the first humans?
Okay. It goes all the way back to the last universal common ancestor of all living things today, which is a single cell.
No, 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 don't go back that far.
Well, I mean, like if you're actually asking about in evolution, was there a first male and
After
female
it became a
human?
fish and after it became a chimpanzee, after that, it got, what's that lineage? That's why we claim that lineage is Adam, the first being, the first man is Adam.
Okay,
I mean, we don't differ here.
That's very clearly incorrect because the first humans existed in a
15 minutes?
population of others like them. There was no first individual man and woman. That's not how population genetics works. That's not how population dynamics works. That's not how evolution works. So Adam and Eve is objectively incorrect. So it contradicts reality.
I really want to understand this. So basically, a bunch of fishes got together, they became apes, and then the apes all
No.
together at the same time became Adam and Eve and a bunch of tribes. Like they're not
no.
Adam and Eve, sorry, a bunch of tribes. How
No.
did it happen then? How did it happen? I assumed that even through evolution, it would be Adam or and an Eve after that, and then more. Even
No,
with
that's
evolution,
actually
you would.
that's not how evolution works at all. And like basically, you always have a
Is it like a
Yeah, I'm trying
population?
to explain. We have only a little bit of time left. It's not that a fish became a chimpanzee, okay? Like parents give birth to offspring. Offspring are a little bit genetically different. Those genetic differences propagate through the population. Populations change over time. It's not that a bunch of freaking fish became a chimpanzee. That's not how that happened, okay? Don't strawman evolution. Evolution
I'm just trying to understand. Is it a population? Like I'm giving you an analogy. I'm not strawman. I'm giving you an analogy so you can understand my question. Is it a population that it evolved together to
Yeah.
become all of the like? It's a tribe of men that was the first and women that was the first people. Or
No,
I thought it was even with evolution would be a single Adam, then an Eve.
Yeah. No, let me
maybe
explain.
if we're lucky.
Let me explain, right? So like if you have like a group that splits into other groups, like if you have like Latin speakers became French speakers and Spanish speakers, right? It's not like all of a sudden a Latin speaking person gave birth to a French speaking child. That never happened. You had the original population of Latin speakers divided into subpopulations that then differentiated over time into French and Spanish and Latin. It's analogous to the way that populations evolve over time, where they split into subpopulations and then those subpopulations change. Like just because you have think about all the different breeds of dogs, right? All these different breeds all came from wolves. You still have wolves today. You still have all those breeds of dogs, but there was never a first breed of each one of those dogs. Like they evolved in populations.
Anyways, Grayson, to answer your question, I know we obfuscate to the Adam. Sure, if you don't want to accept the Adam, that's fine. I mean, I guess what I would say is we believe every human throughout all of history of humanity, this is the God that actually created them. And there is disagreement because there's so much history in all of humanity, and the Quran, for example, which was the final revelation, was released in the final segment of history. Therefore, maybe there is different descriptions, and we know that there was a lot of. It's very hard to keep records. There's civilization we've never seen ever again. Like there's the biggest civilization, like the Pharaoh civilization. We can barely get any information on it, barely get any hieroglyph, and they were the most. They were the biggest, most expensive, the strongest civilization in the history of all of the humanity, and we can barely find anything about it. We don't even know how they made their pyramids. No. We don't even know how they made their pyramids. We don't know anything about their actual technology.
Manar,
bro, but that was a science that took so long. All I'm saying is these civilizations had so much history, and it was so hard for us to reach.
Yeah.
It was so hard for it to reach us. And so it's easy to see that maybe this God is changed in description. It's very easy to see that. But this is why, and it actually also makes it so easy to see that Islam is so necessary, because it is the final revelation, it is the final conclusion, and to kind of bring all these pictures
Look,
together.
this is an interesting debate tactic, but just declaring that Islam is the final message, therefore it's true. I don't see that as a good reason why I'm trying to look at the reasons why Islam is true, and yeah, an Egyptologist would absolutely be melting down right now. We know a lot about Egyptian history. Wait, Manar, hold on.
Manar, hey, Grayson's taking his time back. Allow him to talk.
Yeah, it's like impulse control, man. It's my turn to talk right now. I'm just saying, we have a very good idea about how the Egyptians built the pyramid. That's a common misconception that lots of people propagate. It's not true. It's like the people that say the pyramids were built by slaves. It's just misinformation, okay? We know a lot about Egyptian history, and I will just say, like, in terms of evolution, in terms of geological history, like, the Quran fails in the same way that Christianity does in terms of a literal reading of these texts. If you are believing in a literal Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, if you believe that the earth like predates the stars, like is written in the Quran, if you believe in a 6-day creation event, if you believe in Noah's flood, all these things that are in the Quran, those are all objectively, verifiably untrue things. Like, we know based on the scientific evidence that Noah's flood did not happen.
Is Jesus not a historical human being?
I don't understand what you just said because you were talking over my time and asking me a question during my class exam. But I'm just trying to make the point here that the Quran directly contradicts known science. If you believe that the earth predated the stars, you're just wrong. The Quran is just wrong about that. What were you going to ask, Manar?
I was going to ask you, what do you mean? So is Jesus not a historical figure that's accurately been described and has an accurate description of the Quran? Do you not agree with that? Or you're making claims that basically
says accurate description in the Quran, but I do think that he was likely a historical figure.
Yeah, so there's consensus that he's historical and he actually existed, and that his mother was Mary, and that he had a family, and that he was a noble one, and that his mom was living in a cathedral. So the idea how did you disprove Noah in the flood? I'm trying to understand that too.
Yeah, okay. So there's actually not consensus on all those things, but I will say there's a broad consensus that he was probably a historical apocalyptic rabbi or whatever. In terms of the consensus of, like, we know that Noah's flood absolutely, definitely did not happen because we have the geology. We know what mega flood deposits actually look like, what actual deposits from huge floods really look like. We know that, and we know that the actual layers don't look like that. And the fossils that we find in these layers are impossible for water to sort them in that order. The only way that they're sorted is not by density, intelligence, habitat, mobility. They're sorted according to species in a way that only evolution and long time periods could do.
Yeah, so I just want to, yeah, that's great. So they're actually, you see that they exist. I think, are you contrarian? Like, do you just disagree with me? Because it just doesn't seem like you actually have real
I'll explain to you what we disagree about. Because, again, I've never been gaslit this much in a debate in my life. You're trying to say that we agree about everything. No, we actually disagree about a lot, Manar. For one, I'm an atheist. I don't believe Allah exists. For number two, I don't think that we have the data to show us that the universe had a beginning. Okay, we disagree about a lot of these subjects. I disagree with you about like almost everything about your religion. Don't act like we agree about everything.
History is not going to be nice to you. History is not going to be nice to you, Grayson. If
okay, fine. I'll take that threat with a smile on my face.
Entropy.
Yeah, okay.
The velocity of space and time, I mean, there's no way.
Yeah, okay. I actually did ask my cosmology professor exactly this question about entropy, and the way that he was describing about how entropy is calculated at those very earliest moments. It becomes kind of ambiguous, and like high entropy and low entropy start to become very similar at both ends of the spectrum. It's kind of like when you actually know how to deal with the equations, then you would actually know that, Manar, but you don't do this. I don't know where you're reading this information, if you're just parroting William Lane Craig or someone else, but like, come on. The last thing, I just want you to address the argument I put forward in my opening about the argument from imperfection. If you believe that God is perfect, a perfect entity cannot do anything imperfect. A perfect entity can only do perfect things. Therefore, since the world around us is imperfect, its creation was an imperfect creation. Therefore, it could not have been created by a perfect being. Therefore, it could not be created by your God. That's my argument. Now, please address it.
Okay, the reason this is a very bad argument is it's filled with false presumptions. For example, what is perfect? Can you describe that? What is that to you? Is a human being a perfect being? Is that perfect?
This is an internal critique. So whatever the conception of perfection is within Islam, that is what I will use for the argument.
Okay, so but do you understand that perfection could also be I had a picture in my head and it turned like a creative, like how can an artist say his art, he finished his art? It's because he had an image in his head and he put it out there. So is that possible to be also perfection? So even if it to you appears, for example, I'll give you a verse from the Quran here. I'll read it out.
Example, I can clarify what I mean by perfection in a way that's pretty easy to understand, I think. If we have two different scenarios, one where a God creates a perfect universe, and one where a God creates our universe, right? You can imagine what a perfect universe would be like, where there's no evil, right? Everyone has free will, and everyone freely chooses to only do perfect things in a perfect universe.
This is the problem with the word perfect. Hold on. Everyone disagrees with you on what that means. Everyone, just like morality, just like that word morality. When you force upon it subjectivity,
after I ask you the question,
can agree with you.
Just let me ask the question, and then you can make your point. Man. I'm trying to ask you the question first. So in these two scenarios, one where a God creates a perfect universe and one where a God creates our universe, which I think most people would agree our universe is not perfect, okay? By anyone's definition. Everyone should be able to agree that in those two scenarios, one of those gods is more perfect than the other one. Obviously, the one that created the perfect universe is more perfect. So if your God is maximally perfect, then he should create a perfect universe if he's being maximally perfect. If your God's not maximally perfect, then just admit that.
But just under 5 minutes. To which God?
I'm comparing him to a
you're just filling it up with presumptions. Like, here's the problem, Grayson. Here's the problem: is me and you. Okay, here. I'll give you. Let me give you one verse from the Quran. You'll understand what I'm hearing and why I can't link it with you. Okay.
Okay.
It says 2:30. Okay. Verse 2:30. It says, remember when your Lord said to the angels, I am going to place a successive, which is human authority on earth. They asked Allah, successive to earth, basically. You used to be ruled by, I don't know what, jinns maybe. They asked Allah, will you place in it someone who will spread corruption there and shed blood while we glorify your praises and proclaim your holiness? It's almost like the angels wanted to be the ones to succeed earth. They're like, we see so much corruption. You have all these jinns, all these dinosaurs running around eating each other. You're going to create another one? What are you going to do? He says, here's his answer to them. And this is you. They're saying, we're perfect. Look, we're perfect. Why can't you just create us and let us take over the universe? We're perfect. We're perfection. You know what he says to them? He says this. He says, Allah responded, I know what you do not know. That's it. That's it. That means maybe, is it possible to him, Grayson, is it possible to him that he, in his head, this is the perfection he wanted? This is the perfect idea.
So you're trying to make the argument that
he could have created perfection. He could have put angels. This actual verse proves it. Even the angels requested it.
Manar, so you're trying to make the argument.
In a sly way.
Okay, now you can't even let me talk. You don't even want to let me talk. You're afraid of what I'm going to say. So, yeah, I should have expected this from the amount of gaslighting that you were doing earlier, but now you're trying to make the point that, hey, we actually live in a perfect universe. All that needless suffering from children, all that sin, don't think of that as imperfection, because God works in mysterious ways. And even though, don't believe your eyes, even though the world is clearly not perfect and everyone almost universally agrees it's not perfect, Manar thinks it's perfect because he doesn't want to get caught in a logical contradiction, because if that is the case, then, all of a sudden his God is contradictory because he created an imperfect creation.
Just you feeling something doesn't mean it's true. Just me feeling despair doesn't mean, or let's say I got a DUI, just me thinking this is the worst moment of my life doesn't mean it's the worst moment of my life. Maybe this was the moment that saved my life, because tomorrow I would have drunk and then I would have crashed and killed somebody, or I would have killed myself. This is the problem.
Let's be careful with that word.
to make the assumption on what just happened to me, if this was perfect or not. You're forcing me to always make the wrong assumption because the future exists. Do you see that? What if it was actual perfection for me to get the DUI? What if the actual perfect thing was to do that? You see what I mean?
Oh yeah, like what if a bunch of good things came out of the Holocaust? What if nothing bad has ever happened because it's all part of God's ultimate plan for goodness, and everything that looks like evil, every time a child needlessly suffers and starves and dies, every time there's a spontaneous natural abortion that is like happening naturally, it's just a fetus that just gets killed by Allah. It's like, oh, that's all good. That's all part of this plan. All that's perfect.
Oh, so you're upset about fetuses dying, huh? Now the liberal is going to make the argument. That's hilarious. I just want to remember what I'm telling you.
Hey, Manar,
it is possible for it to be perfect.
Claiming back
Grayson, just remember, I'm destroying your argument.
I'm going to reclaim back my time to just say.
No, but let me answer you. I'm destroying your argument.
I just need to. Yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to say, if Manar will recall, at the very start of this, I clarified it is an internal critique of Islam. So I'm using Islam's morals, Islam's sense of sin, Islam's sense of imperfection here. It's an internal critique. I don't think Manar really knows what that means. I'll let him respond now.
It's possible. All I'm saying is it's possible. Just don't say, oh, this is not a perfect world. It's possible. It is a perfect world if this is what God wanted, what he actually thought exactly this is what he wanted, right? Like, if this is exactly what he wanted, we have to assume this is a perfect world. Yes or no? You agree or no? You agree or no? If the artist tells you this is exactly what I wanted, are you going to claim to him, oh, your art is bullshit? What are you talking about? This is bullshit. This is not perfection. This is ugly. Blah, blah, blah. Are you going to tell him, yes, this is perfection? Which one are you going to do?
I would say that if this
that is
God's
time,
world,
go ahead and finish up your back and forth here real quick, and then we'll move on.
He could have picked Angel, and he wanted this destruction.
I was cut off in the middle of the sentence.
Right after you're going to create corruption. Why are you doing that? Can you put us in? And he said, no, I want this. So would that mean that he created the perfect world in his opinion?
Used the very last seconds of my cross-exam to ask me a question and then interrupted me right in the middle of me answering that question. So, like, I mean, come on, if that's not emblematic of what I've been dealing with this whole debate. Taco, do you remember what question he asked me that I was in the middle of answering when I was interrupted?
No, I apologize. There's a lot going on.
Okay, Manar, do you remember the question that you had asked? I was in the middle of answering when you interrupted.
If an artist told you, this is the art I wanted, this is exactly from my head, this is amazing, this is perfect, are you going to tell him, no, this is not?
Yes.
What are you going to tell him?
So,
all right, so we are over time, so let's go ahead and finish up here.
Okay. I'm trying to answer every damn
question. You can respond and we'll finish it. So, to be fair, Grayson, we did give Manar like a minute earlier, so let's go ahead and respond, and then we'll move into the...
I'm just trying to answer without being interrupted by you and Manar at this point.
Gotcha.
Dang, man. Okay, I almost need him to repeat the dang question, because every time I'm about to answer it, I keep getting cut off. Let me just answer. Hey, Manar, stop. If an artist is like, this is exactly what I intended, I was perfect in executing my vision, and I look at their art, and it's a shitty fucking piece of art, then you know what? I could say, wow, that artist is a shitty artist. And if I look at this world and I say, hey, wait, if this is God's perfect world, then that is an imperfect God, and that's how we know it cannot be Allah. Thank you.
Just to respond to him, just to finalize.
No more responses. That's time.
It was my last.
The angels themselves has to be the ones to make the perfect.
No more responses. That's time. So we're going to go into the audience Q&A.
My Big Bang Theory, my model, what is wrong with it? Why is there anything wrong with it? Like, I know you have other models, but why is this not plausible for you? And why is that not enough for you evidence to show a moment of creation?
Listen,
the expansion. We all concede to the expansion of the universe is a moment.
Sure. Yeah.
So why is that not the moment of creation? Why is that not enough proof for you? Why you still need more evidences for?
Are you genuinely asking? Because I can tell you why if you really want to know. The answer is because there is absolutely nothing in the Big Bang model that describes where the starting energy or initial conditions of the universe originated. That's why it's not a model of creation.
I just have to agree with you guys. I just need you guys so I can win this debate according to my argument that I wrote with myself, the dumb argument you guys don't like. I need you to agree with me that the universe had a moment of creation. You want to call it expansion, you want to call it phase 1, phase 5, phase 100, don't matter to me. Can we all agree here there was a moment of expansion which moved the state of the universe from a singular condensed state to a lot bigger state, which is the actual state of the universe we're talking about in this space-time continuum that we're talking about, regardless of theory? Can we agree there? Regardless of space-time continuum theories, can we agree at that?
Can you agree to let me finish one sentence before you respond and don't interrupt? Okay, then I'll answer. Yes, but a moment of expansion is not the same as a moment of creation and cannot be conflated, period.
That's totally cool with me, because I've already proved that you've created multiple categorical errors throughout the debate. So I can prove again, maybe you've made another categorical error. So I'm okay if you don't like that word. It's okay. Maybe you want to define it in another word. Creation, expansion, creation. To me, the actual to me, because the Quran describes it so clearly, to me it's not a moment of chaos or randomness. It's a moment that was picked and chosen by God and allowed. So to me, there's no evidence you can actually. Now that we agree that there was a moment of creation, I'm almost 100% certain.
Manar,
yes, we agree.
What did I just tell you?
The moment of expansion, you said yes, but you said yes.
No, Manar. Don't be this dishonest, man. Come on. Be a good Muslim that's honest. What I told you was that you absolutely cannot conflate a moment of creation with a moment of expansion. And what did you do immediately after I told you that? You said Grayson agrees that there was a moment of creation. It's like, no, I didn't. The yes was me acknowledging that there was a moment of expansion. I said very explicitly, you cannot conflate that to a moment of creation, and then you literally just did, right after I told you not to do that. I mean, how can you live with yourself, Manar? Like, this behavior is not more, like, how can you, like, behave this way? This is, like, really...
Because you keep conflating creation and expansion with one another, with two different words, and in my head, they read the same way. You're calling it expansion, I'm calling it creation. You wanna switch that up, saying that expansion is not equal to creation. In my head, they are equal, because the same mechanism needs to be the same actual objective entity can do both mechanism, can be creator and expander. Doesn't matter to me. As long as I prove that there was an expansion, as long as I prove it's not contradicting with any of the science data, that there needs to be something so strong that's capable outside of time and space to create these conditions, so the universe can actually expand. That's all I need. I've already won my own argument. I don't know if you guys don't like it. I've already won my debate.
I know that it's really important to you to win this argument. You even said, just so that I can win this argument, can you guys agree that there was a moment of expansion? And then therefore I can change it to then make it sound like you agreed to a moment of creation so that I can win the argument. That's just dishonest, man. That is not good behavior. Look, words have actual meanings. Creation and expansion are two different words that represent two different concepts.
Why? How do you know they're different? In my head, how do you know they're different?
Seriously asking me why
are they different? How do you know they're different? Go ahead, explain. You're not going to be able to make the distinction. I'm going to agree with whatever you actually describe as the expansion.
I really cannot believe that you're asking me this, but let me just explain. Expansion means that something little gets bigger, and creation means that something that didn't exist then gets existence. Those are two different things, Manar. Do you understand, Manar, that two different words that have completely different definitions represent two different things? Can you understand the very basic concepts that they teach before kindergarten?
Okay, Grayson, before the moment of expansion, did the Earth exist?
No.
After the moment of expansion, did the Earth exist?
No.
When did it exist?
This is fundamental. This is what you've been misunderstanding this entire time. The moment of
proof of creation.
Manar, let me
Earth exists,
because you genuinely seem to get this. The moment of expansion.
This is crazy.
Manar, listen. All people need to listen and not talk right now, because you very clearly are not understanding this. The moment of
expansion. Me one last time and I'll shut up forever. Was the Earth existing when it was here?
I don't know what this is.
When we were a state of the universe phase 1, was the Earth existing?
Manar,
before the expansion, did the Earth exist Or after the expansion did the Earth exist? Where did the
No,
Earth exist?
look, please listen and not just waiting to talk.
You're not gonna answer.
Before the expansion, the Earth did not exist. After the expansion, the Earth still did not exist for 10 billion years. And then only after a period of time of 10 billion years of expansion has been happening for 10 billion years, only then does the Earth form. So when your Quran says that the Earth predates the stars, it's wrong. Therefore, it's not true. Therefore, Allah, who's supposed to be the author of this book or helped Muhammad write it, whatever, with his angel Gabriel, right? Probably also didn't appear to some 7th century illiterate merchant and give him all the answers to the universe, because that makes a whole ton of sense.
All right.
Yeah,
So you already. Sure, we can move on. Honestly, I want to move on.